Well, we're at 7:01 now. That was our kickoff time, so we're going to get going here. My name is Michael Arnold. I'm the state director for Convention of States, Massachusetts. I've been with the movement now for a little bit more. I think I came on in January of 19, and I've been working very closely with Becky and several other members of the team, Bill Matheson. And tonight, I'm going to give a very brief introduction to what COS is, to be very quickly, followed by Michael, who is going to go through our agenda. Becky's going to do a nice presentation from her perspective as grassroots coordinator, and Michael Del Santo is our SIA, our Systems Information Analyst. He does all of our technical stuff. He's absolutely brilliant. So if any of you have any troubles whatsoever on the computer end of this, Michael is the man. I'm sure all of you have met him during the onboarding process. He's a tremendous asset to the team. We couldn't do anything that we do without him. He'll be followed by Rebecca. Becky, I always butcher your last name.
Giambaresi.
Giambaresi. Becky is our grassroots coordinator and a district captain. And what other hats do you wear, Becky?
Follow-up team member, which is how I meet most people in that role.
So Becky's going to be doing a short presentation, and then that will be followed up with a Q&A. And Haley Shaw is going to be monitoring the chat room. So if anyone has any questions, I encourage you to go to the chat room and put your questions in there. Haley will be watching them closely. And we're going to go through the Q&A. And then when we're done with the Q&A, Haley's going to inform us on what she does. She's our social media warrior. She is the master of social media. So anytime you see something on our Facebook page, you can more than likely attribute it to Haley from this point going forward. And any social media savvy, I would encourage you to contact Haley and offer your help to her, because she's going to become overwhelmed too. The more support we garner, the busier we're going to become. So basically, that's the team that's going to be speaking tonight. It's myself, Michael Del Santo, Rebecca, and Haley. And then we'll do a Q&A, and we'll take it from there. Real briefly, and I'm sure all of you know this already, Article 5 in the Constitution is the way to amend our Constitution. And there are two ways in Article 5 by which this is accomplished. One is for Congress to propose amendments and then render them back to the states for ratification, where 3/4 of the states have to ratify them and they become part of the Constitution. That has indeed happened 27 times in the history of our country. The second part of Article 5, which has never been successfully implemented before, is for the states themselves to call a convention of the states, where the states get together one at a time. Each state legislature gets together and they pass the legislation to move the agenda forward. So far, we have had 15 states for this go-around that have passed that successfully. Was no second part of Article 5 to the Constitution prior to September 15th, 1787, 2 days before our Constitution was ratified. And on that day, September 15th, somebody named George Mason from Virginia raised his hand and said, "Hey, fellas, we didn't put away in this Constitution for the states to throw off the reins of a tyrannical government," which they had all just been through in the revolution against Great Britain. So he proposed this part of the Constitution, which is the Article 5 Convention of States, and it is the only part of our entire Constitution that there was zero debate on. Everybody kind of did the said, "Oh, geez, what were we thinking?" And it passed unanimously. There was no debate, no dissent. It was at that point added, and that was 2 days. And then 2 days later, on September 17th, is when our Constitution was ratified. So that is how it began, and it has been tried several times throughout history, but it has never reached the threshold of 34 states. We right now are at 15 states. I'm sorry, folks, I got a lot of stuff going on around me. We're at 15 states right now, and we're trying to move forward. We are right now desperately trying to build up our grassroots team here in Massachusetts. You'll find a lot of people, there's a lot of opposition to what we're trying to do. And I'm pretty sure that everybody on this call has access to Convention of States University. I would encourage all of you to take advantage of that resource. There is a tremendous amount of information to be gathered on that site. Michael Del Santo, of course, can help guide you through that if you need to. Becky can help you. I can help you. We've all been through it. I strongly encourage everyone to do it. And that's pretty much all I was going to say for this evening. I'm going to hand it off to Michael, and he is going to go through some agenda items, and then we'll move on to Becky.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. So what I'd like to cover is a little bit of why amendments. That's something that we get asked a lot, is why would we bother amending the Constitution? What we need to do is go back to following the Constitution. And I'm sure a lot of you have this, but this is my pocket Constitution. It's nice and small, 20 pages in its entirety, and you can see the size of those pages. That is our founding document, and that is what kicked off this great experiment. So a lot of people think, well, this Constitution, the stuff that's in here is great. Why don't we just listen to this? The problem is Congress just doesn't listen to this anymore. But here's the thing. There's something that you probably don't know. This Constitution, this isn't the only Constitution. There's another Constitution that you may not be aware of. And that is this Constitution. And you might be thinking to yourself, that's definitely not the Constitution. See, everybody knows this is the Constitution. Oh no, my friends. The Constitution, as the federal government sees it, is not just this, what started our country, but every Supreme Court decision that's ever been made that's decided what is and isn't constitutional. And that is over 3,000 pages of decisions. And those decisions are what the federal government follows. And it gives Congress all kinds of powers. Some of the things that we see today that we're unhappy with that Congress does, whether it's spending, whether it's power that they don't seem to have specified in this little book, all of those things stem from Supreme Court decisions. For example, over 100 years ago, the Supreme Court decided that under the Commerce Clause of the Constitution, Congress basically could do whatever it wanted. Now, that was never the intent, and if you read the founders, you can see that was never the intent of what they wrote. But the Supreme Court decided that is what it meant. So Congress, from that point on, decided, I can do whatever I want, and I can impose all kinds of things on everyday Americans, on everyday life. It was also from there that we get the alphabet soup agencies that run the federal government. There's so many things that are not even in law, but just in regulation. Thousands and tens of thousands of pages of it. All of that, the authority stems right here from Supreme Court decisions. So you might be thinking, all right, that's kind of overwhelming. But there's a silver lining to it. Now let me get this giant Constitution out of the way. It's kind of heavy. This is super light. What you might be thinking is, man, that's discouraging. Look at all that paper. That's what's governing us. But the good thing about it is that means that the federal government actually follows the Constitution. See, they follow everything that's in here, and they don't follow things that aren't in there. So what that means is if we were to pass amendments to do things like limit Congress's power, to introduce term limits, to cut back the spending, and those are the things that are in the resolution for the Convention of States project. If we were to introduce amendments, then that means that Congress would have to abide by it. The federal government would have to. And let me give you an example to show you that this does work. See, if you go back to the beginning of our country, as I'm sure you all know, we had slavery at the time that we started our country. And there were Supreme Court decisions that were made that supported slavery. But then we had the Civil War. And after that, we had the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments that did away with slavery and introduced some incredible freedoms. And Congress has abided by those. See, they don't go back to before those amendments to the Supreme Court decisions, even though they were in the Supreme Court. They say, no, those amendments overruled the Supreme Court decisions that supported slavery. And that's all the Convention of States project is aiming to do, is to do the same thing. See, if we introduce amendments, and if the states introduce amendments and the states pass those amendments, that's something that can go into law and that Congress would abide by, and they have a track record of doing so. So that's a little bit of why, of how that would work and why we believe that would work. The other thing that people are often concerned about is, what about a runaway convention? Let's say a convention's called, all these states come together and they say, we want to propose amendments. But then at the convention, the states send their delegates, they're talking about things. What if there was some special interest that gets in there and they say, you know what? They pay everybody off and they say, no more First Amendment, no more Second Amendment, repeal them all. We don't like any of the Bill of Rights. And everybody is like, you know what? I like money, so I'm going to take that, and we're just going to pass that through. But there's two parts to the convention. The first part is the proposal. And let's just say, worst case scenario, that kind of thing happened. It was introduced, and there was an amendment introduced that went back to the states, and they said, let's repeal the entire Bill of Rights. Let's just say that happened. See, that's only step one. Step one is proposal. Step two is ratification. In order for anything to be proposed, no matter how crazy it is, it has to go back to the states. Law is not made at the convention. See, law is proposed at the convention, and it's sent back to the states. It requires both houses of each state of at least 38 states. That's 3/4. The bar is set very high. It requires all of them to say, I agree to that. And all it takes to cancel any of that out, let's say there were 37 states that said, I want to do away with the Bill of Rights. All it would take is 13 states to say no, and the entire process dies right then, and that doesn't become law. And that's why the founders included those limitations, because they recognized there could be special interests, there could be all kinds of things. And they wanted to make sure that ultimately it was the people and the people's representation, the state legislatures, that would be able to recognize something radical. And the only way those things pass is if the vast majority of the country, including all parts of the country, so that would be, you've got the coast states that run more blue, you've got the middle states that run more red. Each of those balance each other out, and that's what the founders' design was. So there is near 0% chance of anything radical getting through. The worst case that would come out of it is nothing. Let's say something radical goes in, is proposed, everything comes out of it, the states shoot it all down, we go back to the beginning. That's the worst case. So we literally have nothing to lose, but we have the potential to introduce restraints on the federal government that we're severely lacking. So you might be wondering, after a little bit of background there, how does that look in Massachusetts? What happens in Massachusetts? How is Massachusetts involved in that? And I'm glad you asked. See, I could tell that you were all thinking that. I'm just that good sometimes. So what happens in Massachusetts, I'll tell you kind of how the process of how a bill becomes a law, because it's the same process that a resolution follows. In Massachusetts, we're a little different. Our state legislature runs for 2 years. So it starts out in odd number years, and it runs through to even number years. And there's a few different things that happen in those years. At the beginning of an odd number year, anybody that's in the House, Senate, or the State House or the State Senate, anybody that's in those can introduce a bill, and they propose it. And they say, I think this would be a good idea. Now that bill, that idea, it goes into a committee, and there's all kinds of committees, and they look at all kinds of bills. And what their job is to look at the proposed bill and say, all right, what's the background? Why are we interested in this? Is this good for Massachusetts? Do the constituents like this and support this? So they think about those things, and they study up on it, and they research it, and they do these for all kinds of bills. And during that process, in that first year, that odd number year, they're going to open it up to a hearing for the people. So they'll open up to, they'll have a hearing at the State House, and anybody, just like you or me, can go and we can talk about a bill that we care about. So if there's something that we want passed, we can go and we can talk to them, and we can present our reasons why, and we give them our arguments. And they sit there and they take notes, and they take that into consideration. Because remember, their job is to listen to us and what we, the constituents, want. So they take that back and they deliberate.
Linda called you.
And after deliberating those things, they're going to then make a decision. So this is still in the odd number year, and they can decide one of three things. So one, they say, we don't like this bill. It's not good for Massachusetts. We're going to throw it out. That's one option. Second option is, I'm not sure. We just don't have enough information on this. We're not going to throw it out, but we want to think about it a little bit more. We need to do some more research. That's option 2. Option 3 is, this is going on to step 2. This is going on into the even number year. And that's when they decide that it comes out of committee. Now, the process isn't done yet. I know we've gone through a lot of steps, but now we're into the second year, the even number year. And it's in that year that the proposed bill that comes out of committee, it goes into the actual State House and the actual State Senate. And that's where they get to vote on it. And if both the Senate and the House pass the same bill, that bill becomes a law. And it's the same exact process for a resolution. So you also might be wondering, where is the COS resolution in that process? I'm also glad you asked that. So in that, as the volunteer team, we actually introduced the resolution for the first time last year in 2019, the odd number year. It was introduced at the beginning of the year, and we actually, as a team, we got to go to the State House when they had that public hearing. And we got to present our arguments. We got to talk in front of them. It was a very interesting experience. And actually, the entire thing, they do these for the committees. They record these, and they're actually on YouTube. I'm going to drop a link to that in the chat here. I encourage you to check it out. It's a very interesting experience. And that was a couple of us from the volunteer team that were talking about the resolution. So unfortunately, after that, they didn't kick it out, but they did number 2 thing that I was talking about. They said, we don't have enough information. We need to figure out more things on it. So right now, we're in the even number year, but they're not voting on it. The good news is there's another an odd number year coming up in 2021. And what we can do is introduce the resolution again. And our hope is that this time they're going to have more information, because we've been presenting that to them both at the hearing. We've been contacting them and reaching out. We've been talking to our legislators. And so our hope is that when we go through this in 2021, they're going to have more information, and they'll decide to vote for option number 3 and put that into the House and the Senate. And that's the really important part about where we all come in. And everybody on the volunteer team, we're just constituents. We're just people in Massachusetts. There's nothing special about us. And just like what we're doing in contacting the representatives and the legislators, that's why it's so important for everybody here that if you care about these things, if you're passionate about them, we encourage you to reach out, because the legislators, they don't know about this process. A lot of them don't know the background, but when they hear about it, they may be willing and they may be open to it, and we need their support. And here's where I'll kick it to Becky. She can talk to you a little bit more about what the opportunities and what the things are that you can do that are helpful. No, I'm going to unmute.
There we go. I
got
had to unmute. Can you hear me?
Gotcha, loud and clear.
All right, good. So I'm Rebecca, and I've probably spoken to most of you because one of my jobs is a follow-up team member. So what I do is when someone signs a petition, I give you a call and thank you, and have a discussion. If you have any questions, I try to answer your questions and things like that. So if you haven't signed a petition yet for a convention of states, that's the very first thing you can do. I think most of the people on this call probably have, but there may be some that haven't. So that's number 1. Number 2 is contacting your legislators. That's probably the most important thing you can do, because the legislators listen to their constituents. So everybody has a representative and a senator. And so if you go to masslegislature.gov, you can get the information for you put in your address, and you will get your state representative and your state senator. You'll get their contact information. So you can call them, you can email them, but we have found in other past states that writing them handwritten letters are probably more effective than any other way of contacting them, because they don't get handwritten letters anymore. Nobody does that, you know? Who writes letters? Everybody, you know, shoots off a text or an email or a phone call. So, but any type of communication is helpful. So you really want to contact your legislators. So sign the petition number 1, contact your legislators number 2. There we go. Mike D put it up on the screen there. That's how you can contact your legislators. Number 3, just talk about it. Hey, have you heard of conventionofstates.com? I mean, Convention of States, you know, are you familiar with it? You know, tell other people why you support it. Why is it important to you? And that's something you want to include in your letter too. When you write a letter or when you contact your legislators, is what is the reason that you want a convention of states? Is it because you want, you don't want your children carrying the huge debt that the national government has created, the federal government? Is it that you want term limits, that you realize that, you know, career politicians isn't the way to go? That's causing a lot of problems for us. That tends to breed what's the word I'm trying to think of? Corruption, that, people, it was never intended for people to go in to government positions and to make a career out of it and make money on it. It was intended that people would leave their profession, whatever it was, go and serve for a few years and then go back to their profession. That was the original intent. And that's what we want to bring this back to. So, and lastly, volunteering. So if this is something you really believe in, that you really want to see happen, even if it doesn't happen in Massachusetts, we have to educate our legislators, we have to educate other people in Massachusetts. And so it takes volunteers to do that. We have all different kinds of jobs that people can do. As I mentioned, I do 3 jobs. I'm a follow-up team member. So I call people when they sign the petition. I talk to them about what we're about. I'm a district captain. So a district captain is a really important job. We have 160 representative districts in Massachusetts. And we have 10 district captains at this point in time. So we have a long way to go covering all those districts. So we have a great need for district captains. What does a district captain do? So a district captain takes charge of their own district. So you develop a relationship with your legislator, you teach them about what Convention of States is, and you develop relationships with other people in your district. You start out with people that have already signed the petition, so there's already an interest there. And then you just keep working at it. And Haley, as we mentioned, Haley's our social media warrior. So we have need for more of those. Mike's our state information analyst. That's a position. Michael Arnold is our state director. That's another position. We have teams for all the positions. So if it's something that you want to be, if there's one of those positions that you want to be a support to, you can be on that team. We have legislative liaisons. We actually have need of a legislative liaison right now. That's someone who goes to the state legislature and finds out where our legislation is, where our bill is. Is it in committee? Has it moved on to the one of the houses? When is it going to come up for a vote? When is it going to come up for testimony? All of those things, the legislative liaison keeps an eye on and lets the team know what's going on. So that's another key position. We need a media liaison. We don't have a media liaison. That's someone who works with radio, TV, trying to get the word out in Massachusetts. An events coordinator is another volunteer position that's open, and that's someone who helps to plan events in Massachusetts for us to get the word out again. So Mike just put up the how to find the different positions. So on the chat. So you could check that out. And that's pretty much all I had. We're going to open it up to questions at this point, I believe, unless Haley had something. We even have to say anything, Haley? No. Okay, so Haley's actually fielding the questions for us. That's what she's going to be doing. That. Mike, you wanted to say something else?
Yeah, just wanted to jump in real quick.
Sure.
Just in addition to what you were saying, to go back to that about reaching out to your legislators, for those of you guys who are on here, one of the things that we put together to help you out with that, because that's hugely important. I just want to reiterate what Becky was saying, is it's hugely important to reach out, to write to your legislator. That's like the #1 important thing that you can do, and it's super easy and it's super attainable. One of the things that we've done is put together a form to kind of help you think through that process about how to write the letter, about what kind of things to put in it, and how long to make it, those kinds of things. Because I know it can be very confusing. So I'm going to post a link in the chat here, and I encourage everybody to check it out. And it's basically designed to be a form where it asks you a question, you kind of write a reply to that question, and it kind of helps you think through how to write it. Because what we don't want to do is put out just the exact same wording and then everybody signs it. Because legislators see that and then they just tune it out. They say, I don't care about this. This is artificial. These are not real people. They want to hear what you think. They want to hear what you feel. And those are the things that make the most impact. So we put this together to try to help you out with that. So I'm going to drop a link in the comments, and I encourage everybody to check that out. Thanks, Becky. That's all I wanted to add.
Okay, so we're going to open it up to questions. All four of us can answer questions. And Haley's going to go ahead and help us with that. So if you have a question, you can type it in the chat.
Yes, I'm not seeing any yet. But if you didn't want to type it in, honestly, maybe if there's a way to speak in as well. But yeah, if you have any questions, just type them into the question box.
Or they can go into chat and raise their hand, and we can unmute them so they can ask their question too.
Yeah.
I have a question, Mike Casio, if I may ask a question.
Hi, Mike. Sure.
Hi. My question is, at this particular juncture, what is exactly you're trying to get through with the legislators? Is there an agenda that you have? Is there a place that I can look that up?
Yes.
That we would like to have done. I mean, I'm in agreement with you, I'm sure, but I just I don't know what the primary objective is right now. What's the pressing stuff that you're trying to get accomplished?
If you go to masslegislature.gov,
I'll
and you
Becky,
check out.
I'll toss a link to that in the comments. Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll hop on that. So there's a specific wording in the resolution, and I'll put a link to that. But it really covers the main things that we're requesting is one, well, the overarching thing is calling a convention. So that's the first thing that has to happen. And that only happens when 34 states all propose the same resolution. So that whole process that I spoke to.
Right, yep.
Yep. So that same process happens across the country, and it's currently happening in most of the other states. There's some form of that. They're in some one of those steps. So once 34 states call it, that's what kind of kicks the entire thing off. The other important thing in the resolution is it limits the categories of proposed amendments to 3 things, and that's what I was mentioning before with limiting the power and scope of the federal government, introducing term limits, and cutting back the spending of the federal government, adding fiscal responsibility. So once a convention is called by those 34 states, then the states send delegates to a convention. So every state has the opportunity to participate, and they can introduce just about any amendment, but it has to follow those 3 guidelines. It has to relate to one of those 3 things. So if anything, it doesn't relate to that and is completely out of left field, that's not going to be addressed in the convention. And that's what the resolution speaks to, and that's what our legislators see. So in the wording of the resolution, which I'll post here, they read through that, and that's what they decide whether or not they're for or against it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we do have some questions now. Mark asked, where are we with the current bill, and when will the next hearing be?
I can take that as well, I guess, because I was talking about the legislative process. So currently the proposed resolution is in what is called in study. So in that process, in that odd number year, when I was referring to that, there were 3 things. They could kick it out, they could look at it more in detail without passing it, or they could move it forward into step 2. And we are at that point of looking at more details. So they put it into what's called putting it in study. And at that point, it's very, very rare that they would pull it out of study in the immediate next even number year, which is what we're in right now. It's very, very rare that they would pull it out of study and then kick it to the House. Usually what that means is they want to extend the amount of time that they're taking to look into it. And that's going to be through that even number year, which means that moves then into the next legislative session, which would be 2021. So that's where we are currently. So our resolution wasn't thrown out, but it's in study. So that's where it stands. And then that would mean the next public hearing would probably fall around the fall of next year, fall of 2021, because we went in September of 2019. So chances are, I think it depends on which committee is reviewing it, and that might change. But for the committee that was reviewing ours, it was in September. So that's about when it would be. Hopefully that answers your question.
So Mike, wouldn't you agree that because it's in study and seeing that next year is 2021, now is a really crucial time for us to really get some grassroots teams going. And now is a really crucial time for us to really send those letters and get more volunteers so we can have a much more successful run in the next cycle, wouldn't you say?
100%, absolutely. Yeah, now is absolutely crucial because it's in study. Exactly like what you're saying, Haley. Because it's in study, that means they want more information.
Right.
And that more information comes from us, you and me, everybody that's on here that wants to participate in that.
Yeah.
And
That's more of us telling them it's important to us, their constituents, that that we want this. So this is more than the signing a petition is great, but this is a chance for you to write those letters, make those phone calls, because that's really the hard work that we need from everybody right now.
Absolutely. And even it's as simple as taking 10 minutes, jot down something you want to write to them, something you're passionate about, and it makes a difference. Across in other states, just as some examples, there are legislators in some of the other states that have now passed the resolution that said that they were either on the fence or they were opposed to it, and they were overwhelmed by the number of letters that their constituents sent them, and that's what got them to change their mind. So it does work. There's 15 states that have passed, and in a lot of them it was because of that. Great point, Haley.
So to go along with that, I'm going to continue. Mark had a additional question to that. Does it die when it is tabled or in study and has to be represented? Because in some committees they have a 90-day time frame.
Yeah, that would be the case. So it does have to get introduced, and we can either use the same person. There was a member of the House that was the sponsor the first time around. The same person can just bring it back in again, or somebody else, and it can have multiple co-sponsors. So if there are a lot of people that believe this, they can introduce it, and it can be introduced either in the House or the Senate. It doesn't matter which one it starts in. But yes, yeah, you're correct. It would have to be introduced.
Okay. We also have another question from Lori. On the actual petitions, can you see everyone's name who signed it? She wanted to see who has or hasn't signed for those, and she sent materials too, and she's not looking to duplicate her efforts.
I'm not quite sure I follow. So do you mean, to the person who was asking that, do you mean like wanting to
I think she's doing some grassroots efforts in her neck of the woods and is pushing for people to sign, and she's just curious probably what that success has been, and rather than pushing for, talking to people that have already done it, who hasn't maybe signed it, or is there a way that, we can get Lori info?
I'll speak to that. District captains have access to the petition signers in their district. So if there's a district captain in your district, that person would be able to tell you who has signed the petition. If there is no district captain in your district, if you contact me, I am the follow-up team. I'm a member of the follow-up team. I can look to see, if you give me a list of names, I can look to see if they've signed the petition for you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, but we just as a point of clarification though, if you're not a volunteer, we wouldn't be giving out a list of names. Like Becky was saying, you could ask and say, hey, I know such and such, and we can say yes or no.
Yeah.
But yeah, we wouldn't be handing out that, just, of course, for privacy.
Okay, someone had their hand up, so I was gonna pass that to Michael, who was gonna let them talk real quick.
Okay, I don't have a name with it. All it says is iPhone, but I'm gonna unmute you because I see you have your hand raised in the corner, so have at it.
First time with the group.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Becky. I've spoken with you. I did sign the petition.
Great.
What can I do to participate? I'm new at this. I didn't know how to type I thought I typed in a question. And my question is, what can I do? Although I am very busy because I'm taking care of my mother. But what can I do
Dale?
from home? Yes,
Yes,
I
hi,
am
Dale.
Dale. Nice to meet you face to face. What can I do to help? I love writing letters. I can do that.
We need that.
That's big.
Okay.
That's the biggest.
Yes.
That is the biggest thing, and it's not. Yeah, it's that is probably the most important thing.
Okay. I do love to write.
And you can write them once a month, you know?
Okay.
Give different reasons.
I don't want to overload them with my writing.
Right. So you might want to spread it out. We want to keep the letters short, actually. So you might want to, you know, each month give a different perspective on it, you know?
Okay. As a group, should I write it as a group question, suggestion, any idea? You know?
You would write it as a constituent. So as a constituent of your representative's district, you would say, you know, I want you to support this Convention of States because I'm concerned for my grandchildren, or I think that we need term limits, or I think that I'm tired of the federal government overstepping where it should be. So those are three reasons right there why you would want to write to your own legislator. So you have two legislators. You have a representative and you have a senator. And we're talking about state representative and state senator. We're not talking about Elizabeth Warren. Some people get that mixed up. We're not talking about her. She's federal. So we're just talking about the state legislators.
Okay. I know you brought up something that really, like when they get the job as a, you know, in office, that, like you said, they should be in short term. They're making it into a career. It's time we put a stop to that. We have to put a stop to that.
So that's a very good talking point. So you'd only want to use one. For every letter, use a different talking point. That's a really
I think I'll start there because they're out of control.
Yeah, I agree. Good.
And something else too, that if you are interested, and I'll shoot you a message on here with the there's a link to, so the committee that was hearing the resolution this time around in the state house was the Committee on Veterans and Federal Affairs, and that's where it's in study currently. Now they may not be the committee that hears it the next time around, but if you feel so inclined, I will not hold you back. After you write to your representative and senator, if you would like to write to the members of that committee, that link I sent you in the comments, that links you right to who is on that committee. And if you click on those folks, you'll be able to see how to get to them. If you feel so inclined, I would encourage you to write to them as well, because they're going to have heard the content of that specifically. They're the ones that have it in study. They're the ones that have specifically looked at it. So they should know. And you can refer to exactly the resolution, which I put in the comments before, but I'll send it to you individually. That way you have it. It's House Resolution 3213. Don't expect you to remember that because that's kind of yeah, that's out there. But if you feel so inclined, write to them, and if you reference that, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. And then, you know, like Becky was saying, those couple of things. Hopefully that helps. And we appreciate that. That's huge.
Great. I will love to do that.
Great. Thank you, Dale.
Help. Sure.
Okay, we have another question. How is the best way to convince your representative to sign on as a sponsor? Term limits are mostly opposed by blue-controlled states. Once politicians are in power, it is hard to step down and give the power up.
I think the best way to accomplish that, as from the district captain level, is to engage everybody in your district, get as many people as you can, to write them letters, to call them, to have face-to-face meetings with them. Michael Del Santo told me one time he talked to his representatives and they told him that he was the only person who had brought this to his attention. If there's only one voice it's not going to be heard. But if you put pressure on your individual representatives as a group, as a district, you can make them sponsor this and support this, because we, the people, our vote is our veto on their career. You know, and vote and veto have the same letters in them for a very good reason. We veto them right out with our vote. So the way to do that as a district captain is to engage the people in your district as best as you can, to engage the representatives at the same time you are, to pressure them into doing this. We really do hold a tremendous amount of influence over our representatives, but somewhere along the way, we the people have forgotten that.
Yep. And then another question, quick question is, what is the name of the committee that has us tabled or has us, yeah.
So that is the Joint Committee on Veterans and Federal Affairs.
Okay.
And I'll drop that into the general comments as well. I'll link to the who's on that committee for those interested.
Awesome. And I don't see any others right now.
Haley, would you like to inform us about your social media warrior position and what's going on that front?
You got it. So I've been with the team for a couple months now. I'm a district captain, so I live in Salem, Massachusetts. So I'm a district captain up here. But I also saw that there was a void and a need for a better presence on social media. So I've recently taken over the helm of the Facebook page. So we are Convention of States, Massachusetts. If you are on Facebook, I encourage you to join and like and follow. We put out a lot of really great content and memes, and I think it's just really inspiring and patriotic. So engage with the page. That would be excellent. Like, share posts that you would enjoy or you would like other people to just do that. But spreading the message is what we're doing on the social media page. Ask questions, anything like that, but we're just trying to be a little bit more engaged when you can't immediately call us or anything like that. So like I said, Convention of States, Massachusetts, look for us there on the Facebook, and yeah, spread the message, and hopefully we start to go a little bit more viral in Massachusetts. And I just want to quickly let you know, I joined this cause because I felt like there was nothing I can do, and it felt like politics was getting worse and worse. And I listened to a podcast, and somebody inspired me, and I felt that because I am one person, I don't have to feel like I'm a nobody. And if there's more and more of us that are just single people, we create an army. And you might not ever remember the small people in the Revolutionary War who fought. We only talk about the real key people, but there's a whole army of people that fought for that. And I see myself as one of those people, and I see all of you as one of those people too. So I'm a patriot, and I just wanted to see what I could do to help this country, because I want to see it continue for the next hundreds and hundreds of years. And just, it needs patriots like all of us. So don't feel like there's nothing you can do. Even the smallest thing, which is letting other people know that this exists, that's letting one person know what we're all about. So pass it along. Don't be afraid, and don't be afraid of your politicians, because we vote for them, they work for us, and it's our job to let them know what we want. So that's why I did this.
Amen. I almost want to sing God Bless. That was very inspiring, Haley.
That was fantastic.
I think there might be some people here maybe who don't know how to go into chat and ask a question, or maybe they don't know how to raise their hand. So in an effort of maybe organized chaos, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everyone all at once. And if anybody has any questions, we'll be like a wolf pack. First come, first serve. So there it is. Everybody's unmuted. If anybody else would like to speak up, oh, I thought they all unmuted them.
No,
You might
they're
have to
still muted.
unmute yourself too.
Right.
Now I
Some
hit unmute
people
all.
muted, I think.
Yes, I think everybody needs to do it themselves.
I have a question. I don't, you're very inspiring, young lady, I have to say. And it's very motivating to hear you say that. And it's good to know people your age still have that within them.
Thanks.
Because it's very scary because they are conditioning our children. And I think this quarantine got our children back to us so we can kind of unravel their minds of what's really going on.
Yeah.
So I have to excuse myself, but I would love to participate in another meeting. I have to take care of my mother.
Okay.
So I don't know when the next, I saw the invite and I took the opportunity. I'm going to check my, was it the text message thing? I don't know how to do that. I thought I sent a question in. Is it recorded? Will I get any emails, or do you have my phone number?
Yeah.
How can I get the questions and how to send it out? And also to write the letters, of course.
Oh,
Becky, you have her contact info, right?
Yeah, I do. I can get it to you, Dale.
Oh, okay, Becky. All of you, it was a pleasure in participating. I'm sorry I have to leave a little early.
thank
It's my
you.
mom's, she's hungry. I got to take care of her. So, okay. God
Thanks
bless
Thank you for
everyone.
joining. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
joining us.
Thank you.
bless.
Take care.
Pamela
Okay.
has,
Standing.
Pamela
All right.
has her hand raised. Pamela, would you like to go ahead and answer a question? I'm sorry.
Or ask it. You might be muted. You have to unmute.
Nope, I think
Oh,
Pamela's unmuted.
she's not muted.
Okay.
Pamela, do you have a question?
Okay.
Anybody else?
I think Bill Stanny did.
Go, go.
She's unmuted.
There
Hey,
it
Bill.
is.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, how we doing?
Good.
I just spoke to Dale 5 minutes before the meeting and gave her a reminder.
Excellent.
She took my course, so she had some questions, so she
Yeah.
called me up.
Yeah, she said she was going to.
Any questions?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, there she is. Good.
Pamela.
This is new to me.
Welcome.
I'm from
Welcome.
Boston.
Welcome.
I'm from Boston, and I'm very political. And you know what's going on? I don't like it, and I want. I'm really. I want to be an advocate. I want to do whatever it takes, 'cause I got the willpower.
Have you signed the petition yet, Pam?
No, where's the petition? I think I did. That's how I got you guys.
COS Action. COS
Huh?
Action.
It's
COS Action is the website.
Bill. It's actually conventionofstates.com.
Yeah, I
okay.
signed that.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
That's how you got me.
Yep.
You have my email, my phone number.
Great. So have you written to your legislators yet?
I have, and I have a couple of people who want to work with me.
Wonderful.
One girl particular. She's a go-getter like I am. She's from Chelsea, Mass. And we are trying to get enough people to write a letter and have people sign it.
So what would be even better would be for everyone to write individual letters, because the more
Okay.
that we can get out, the better. And everybody needs to write to their own legislators, because those are the people that the legislators listen to, are their constituents. So they need to find out who their legislators are. And they can find that out by going to masslegislature.gov and putting in their address, get their contact information for their legislators and write them letters. That's what all those people can do. And also,
Okay.
if you go
Mass
on
legislator, yeah.
masslegislature.gov,
Okay.
And also, I would encourage you to go on our website, conventionofstates.com, study up, learn as much as you can on the website. And then when you feel confident that you understand what we're doing, go to the Take Action tab. Scroll down past the petition sign and check out the summaries of all the different volunteer roles and see if there's
Okay.
something that you would like to do.
Okay.
All right? Great. Thank you,
Sounds
Pam.
good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Let's go, people.
Yep. Let's go, team.
Awesome. All right, that was awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
it's great.
Yeah, thank you so much for everybody that came tonight. We really appreciate your time. And we know, everybody's got a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of things that vie for our attention these days, especially with all the technology and everything and all the noise and the 24/7 news. So we really appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time, and hopefully we were able to help answer some of your questions. And we'd love to see you guys getting involved, and especially writing to your legislators. And we'll, as a team, we'll keep putting out the information every month. We put out a newsletter to kind of give you an update on, if there's events coming up, or if there's anything like that, we put that out in the newsletter. Every month we do have a writer on the team. He does a fantastic job. Every month he writes a new piece, and he covers a lot of the, there's a book that Mark Levin wrote that covers what some of the proposed amendments could be once we get to convention. And he's been writing an entire series kind of covering what some of those things are. So if you'd like more details on that, keep an eye out for the newsletter. And it's also, his pieces are directly on the Convention of States website as well under the blog. So yeah, there's all kinds of ways. And then, like Haley mentioned, with following us on Facebook to keep in touch. But we definitely hope to have you guys stay in touch with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your time.